Maybe the occasional bird or cat. This cat painting was done by an actual emperor, by the way. What have you been doing with your life? If you go to a small restaurant in China, don't go ask to see the kitchen. You will be discouraged. Though I'm pretty sure this applies to Western kitchens too. Like, I don't think restaurant workers across the world give as much as a crap as we hope they do. Anyway, because this is a kid's movie, it starts aiming to decimate your emotions right at the 6-minute mark. Her mom gets like K-drama style signs of unrealistic because Chinese teachers get so into your life that they will tell you to fix your hair if it is a mess. Though she probably gets a pass because her mom died. We see her make a mooncake offering at a small shrine in her house, which is common for families that have lost a family member. You put their picture up and then leave offerings like fruit and incense for them. Back in the kitchen, there's again a bunch of random but things, like the strings of garlic, the bottles of soy sauce and vinegar on the shelf that are probably like really greasy, the scale and stove that look like they're from the 1980s, and of course, the bright plastic thermoses in the background. They are such a thing in China. Most families have a bunch of these thermoses standing around with boiled water in them. Coco! In the English version, he's just Qin. In the Chinese subs, he's Xiaoqing, or Little Qing instead. This is because it's generally very strange to refer to someone by just one syllable in Chinese. Like, most Chinese names have 3 syllables, the family name, and then 2 meaningful characters. If someone's name is, say, Wang Yibo, you can just call him Yibo, no problem. But there are also, I don't know how exactly they're related. But in Chinese, Feifei is still caught up in action sequences with a bunch of giant moon frogs now, so Chang'e is still stressing out. She sings 2 lines of Mandarin that aren't translated in the English subs, but it's "I wish you everlasting love in every lifetime." And back in Feifei's action sequences, the doll gets ripped apart and Feifei thinks it's all over. But when Ken Jeong makes her eat the mooncake that Miss Zhong gave her to cheer herself up, Feifei discovers that there's a half of a jade pendant inside. Now, jade pendants could work as contracts in ancient China, like the general terms were carved onto it and then the pendant was broken in half, and each party carried a piece. So this pendant is probably symbolic of Chang'e and Houyi's promises to each other. Feifei rushes the pendant back to Chang'e, and with the help of Jade Rabbit's medicine, Houyi appears. Chang'e and Houyi sing to each other, partially in Mandarin, and the Mandarin is, "Thoughts of you are so difficult to bear. I wish I could be with you." And Chang'e has also reverted to the way she's traditionally depicted, which is like very Tang Dynasty. This is because the Tang Dynasty aesthetic is considered the most ethereal and fairy-like, so it fits her moon goddess image the most. Once again, if you want to learn more about Tang Dynasty makeup, I've got an infographic on my Instagram, link in the description below. And while Chang'e is beyond happy to see Houyi again, he says that he unfortunately can't actually stay, and that she has to move on, and then he disappears. This sends Chang'e into a deep despair that extinguishes all the light in Lunaria. Feifei tries to go talk her out of it, but ends up getting confronted with her own grief over her mother's death. Feifei and Chang'e then help each other out of their grief by comforting each other, with Feifei learning to accept her new brother and the new family that she's gonna have, and Chang'e learning to just be happy with her family of lunar minions. Then the light comes back to Lunaria and Feifei gets ready to leave, though her bunny Bunchi wants to stay with Jade Rabbit. Bunchi? You met him 20 minutes ago! But alright! So Chang'e lets Feifei take the picture of them together back home, though it burns up on the way back to Earth, but Feifei isn't really bothered by that, because now she's emotionally mature enough to not need the legend of Chang'e anymore. Avatar: The Last Airbender is good cultural representation. Comes from is when some fans put Avatar on too high of a pedestal when it comes to representation, and I'm cool with it. But what real-life cultural inspirations did Avatar take? And this is probably a reference to the Avatar. And the Avatar production staff hired an actual master Chinese calligrapher, so it's all legit. The Yu in Yuyan Archers is probably based on the Mandarin word for feather, yu, since, you know, that's what's at the end of arrows. I don't know if the yin has any special meaning though. Ginger tea is commonly used to treat colds in many cultures. Avatar extras say the stairs to the herbalist were inspired by the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. After the Yuyan archers capture Aang, Zhao makes a good point. They'll just have to start the Avatar hunt all over again if they kill Aang. Even if the Fire Nation wins with the power of Sozin's comet, Korra will be born, waiting to lead a rebellion. Hey, that's not a bad fanfic idea actually. Somebody write this. Someone who isn't me. Avatar extras also say this fortress was originally an important Earth Kingdom trading outpost. Guess the Fire Nation is so dedicated to their brand that they repainted all the roofs red. And the art book says that Zuko's blue spirit mask was originally red, but got changed because it gave off too much of an ancient Korean Spider-Man vibe. Ultimately, it was inspired by the mask of the Dragon King Noel, though in universe, it's an Earth Kingdom opera mask. Again, it's like Zuko has some the action in this episode. My god, how do you even choreograph a sequence like this? I have nothing but respect for action choreographers, especially in animation. Then the quiet moment between Aang and Zuko at the end? Ugh, just kill me. Okay, next episode, the fortune teller. So, ship zoned Katara. The whole concept of the friend zone is unfair to the person doing the rejection, because they likely had no idea of your feelings until you confessed them. So like, how does it make sense to say that they did something to you instead of the other way around? There will be no friend zone propaganda in my house. In general, the people of Aunt Wu's village give me a very strong Tang Dynasty vibe. The Tang Dynasty is considered the peak golden age of imperial China. This kind of hat with the two droopy flaps in the back is very iconic to this era. One day I'll do a video on how to identify a historical Chinese drama's precise dynasty by clothing alone. This is a superpower that a lot of Chinese people have. We see like one hat in the palace drama and we're like, Song Dynasty. Also, another fun fact, the Avatar extras say that this calm dude is based on a security guard at Nickelodeon. That's so funny. Speaking of the Tang Dynasty though, I wonder if Aunt Wu was named after Wu Zetian, the only female emperor in Chinese history. Or she could be named after the word for shaman, Wu. And this white hair guy, I swear, he must be a reference to some anime character. I just don't know which one. Mong is voiced by Jesse Flower, the eventual voice actor of Toph. Aunt Wu's fortune telling is based on oracle bone divination, also known as osteomancy. This is an ancient, and I mean like Neolithic ancient, form of fortune telling in China. They carved writing on the shoulder bones of oxen or the shells of turtles, and then threw them into fires. The bones would then crack, and the cracks across the writing would be interpreted to tell the future. It is thanks to this tradition that we have archaeological findings of Chinese writing that's like more than 3,000 years old. They are primary sources from the Shang Dynasty, and you can trace modern Chinese writing directly to this oracle bone script. Imagine if you were reading up on your horoscopes, and then 3,000 years later, someone found your fossilized hard drive, and we're like, whoa, so these Scorpio people had a tough time back then, huh? Also in the background, there's a large bell that's probably inspired by bianzhong, a type of bronze instrument that's especially iconic to this super ancient Shang and Zhou dynasty times. They were hung on a frame as a large set and played with mallets, so they were like extra hardcore xylophones. They made real music back in the Shang dynasty. I was born in the wrong generation. No, for real though, there's a really well preserved bianzhong set that was found in a tomb about 2,400 years old, and this is what it sounds like when played. Aside from Tang Dynasty and Shang Dynasty vibes though, there are also Qing Dynasty vibes in this one shot. This style of clothing with a straight collar and knot buttons, it comes from the Qing Dynasty. The Qing Dynasty is China's last imperial dynasty, not to be confused with the Qing Dynasty, which is China's first. I know. The Qing dynasty was actually ruled by an ethnic minority in China, the Manchu people, who were originally nomads and different from the Han people, who are the dominant ethnic group in China, what people usually think of when they hear Chinese. But China's not a monolith, like even the government recognizes at least 56 distinct ethnic groups alone, and there are a lot more that they don't recognize. It's a big country. English honestly doesn't have enough nuance to fully express just how diverse being Chinese can be. It just groups us all under Chinese. It can be really stressful sometimes. Though fun fact, this style of clothing is what China makes world leaders wear at Apex summits. 15. Bato of the Water Tribe. No, come on, we all know the bigger star is the bounty hunter June. The art book says that she's based on Lisa Yang, a post-production supervisor. Though I blame her for feeling Zutara. When Aang gets the map to Katara and Sokka's dad, it says, under protection of the ocean and moon up top, and then the locations are labeled with tribal chief and soldiers. Here, this cat. I need her backstory. Kokochin, did you get in trouble with the Fire Nation again? I really need to thank the Avatar and Korra producers for never giving us an Uncle Iroh deathbed scene. I don't think we could have handled it. June continues to represent Zutara shippers, though she is right in that they don't match on an aesthetic level until Zuko grows his hair out. And here's scene, like, this is what I mean. Zuko seems so powerful and badass until he fights Aang. Uncle Iroh here. This is technically harassment, come on. Seriously, this episode though, so much ship tease. And although I'm not a Katang shipper, it's interesting to note that last episode was the first time Katara considered Aang as a potential love interest, and then in this episode, she kisses him on the cheek. So I guess there were signs, okay. Next, episode 16, The Deserter. The art book says that this episode was partially inspired by Heart of Darkness. Once again, appreciating how the writers gave the Fire Nation a vibrant culture that isn't just war and pillaging. Though Avatar extras do say that this festival is meant for Fire Nation occupied territories in the Earth Kingdom, to like bring them a slice of home. And then it also says that John John is based on the president of one of their animation studios, DR Movie. His wanted poster says John John, former Fire Nation admiral, age 60, white hair, looks gentle, but is actually a master of firebending. Captors, be careful. The gang seriously needs better disguises. Dancing Dragon! If you've been to like a Lunar New Year parade, you've probably seen one of these. Here, really, my own family has some sort of grievance with the government. They're just not vocal about it because the consequences are too severe. I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.